So our next recipe is going to be a low carb, low sodium jerk marinade. For this recipe, it's very similar to a basic green sauce or any other type of marinade. You can just take all your ingredients, put it right into the bowl, and place it right into the blender. So we're gonna go in order. We have our green onions here. One whole green onion is gonna go into our recipe. This one came straight out of our garden, so it's nice and fresh. Depending on what your flavor preference is, you can also go for a regular white onion. I just prefer green onions because I like the way that they taste. To me, the green vegetables always have a bolder taste. So again, the chop on these doesn't really matter. It's going into the blender, so you can make it as big or as small as you want. Next up is going to be our thyme. You can be really generous with the thyme. Um, you're going to break it up just so that it doesn't wrap around the blade in the blender once you put it in there. That goes straight into your bowl. And then we have our cloves. So we're going to put that in there. We have our cinnamon. That brings the festive flavor to the jerk sauce. That's often the secret weapon. We have our allspice. So allspice, you can get it powdered or you can get it in the berries. I like the berries just because, again, they're more flavorful. There's no preservatives or anything like that, no anti-caking agents, nothing like that. And there's nothing like the taste of the allspice berry once you put it on the grill. That smoke is just amazing. So I use the whole ones. We also have our coconut sugar. We're gonna put that in there. I add a little bit first, and then if I want to later on, I add the rest. Our garlic, again, you do not have to take the skin off the garlic. It is just as nutritious as it would be otherwise. So I just throw the whole thing in there. It's going into the blender. Our Scotch bonnet. So for me, I like for my stuff to be spicy, especially when it comes to jerk. If you're not a big fan of spice, you want to use a smaller pepper, maybe like one of these baby ones like this. Or you could always cut it and use half. But understand when you cut the Scotch bonnet, it just magnifies the spice. It's going into the blender, so less is more. We're gonna go with cutting a small piece. And then later on, when no one's watching, I'm gonna add the whole thing. So we'll just use a small piece for now. But again, don't think that you're gonna take this now and put it in some soup or something like that. Once you cut it, you gotta continue to just cut off small pieces because if you put this in your soup while it's open, it's gonna be way too hot. So we just usually save that for later. Then we're gonna add our lime juice. So there's a little TV magic trick that I like to show people. I'll probably do that later on. If you find that you've chosen a lime that's a little bit too hard for your liking and you can't really squeeze it, put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. Putting it in the microwave loosens the areas that are in there, the little things that hold the juice. It kind of steams the juice and it makes it nice and watery, so it almost kind of juices itself. But we're gonna put that in there. I like to also get some of that pulp from the lime, all the flavors. We like to take advantage of that. Be careful, don't get any of the pith in there. The pith is the white part because then it'll be bitter. And lime it does two things. So lime acts as a preservative in the jerk marinade, but it also increases the flavor profile so that you don't have to use as much salt. Kind of tricks your tongue into thinking that there's salt when there really isn't. So we're gonna squeeze the lime in there. And now we're gonna add our liquid aminos. You can use soy sauce if you like, but if you're gluten-free, liquid aminos is your friend. Then we're gonna use our oil. Our oil is just a carrier. It helps it to adhere to the meat or the meat substitute that you're using. So right here we have some olive oil. Feel free to use avocado as well. Once we have all these ingredients in here, I'm just gonna take my spoon, mix it up. I like to mix it up in a bowl first before I put it in the blender because sometimes the seasoning gets stuck to the bottom of the bowl and you don't really get all of it out when you go to pour it. So we would take this, we would introduce it to our blender. And then if you want it to be a little bit thicker, maybe you want it to be a thicker marinade, you can always add a bell pepper or two in there just to make a paste. But for right now, we want something a little bit looser. Once we put it in our blender, we turn our blender on, and that's it. We pulse it a little bit. Take your spoon, stir it around. Make sure the thyme and stuff isn't getting stuck to the bottom. Blend it a little bit more. And that's our low sodium, low carb jerk marinade. You may notice that it's a little bit paler than the ones in the supermarket. That's because we don't use soy sauce. We use liquid aminos. Much, much, much less sodium in this than there would be from the supermarket, but all the taste and all the flavor is still there.